Okay, in this video we're going to look at how life expectancies, crime rates and literacy rates can impact both our material and non-material living standards. So in terms of life expectancy, basically what we mean is we're referring to the number of years an average person in a nation can expect to live. Life expectancy is one of the things they look at in the Human Development Index to see how developed countries are. So generally countries with higher life expectancies are more economically developed. Longer life expectancies generally boost material living standards. Those who live for longer can generally work for more years, and therefore that allows them to have a higher level of income and purchase more goods and services. But that's not always the case. So longer life expectancies and material living standards. What can happen is longer life expectancies can actually lead to slower growth rates and negative impacts on future generations. Because what's happening is people are retiring at a similar age and therefore living on the pension for longer. So as they live on more on the pension, most retirees have an inadequate level of savings to support themselves, so they're actually living on a lower income for a longer period of time. So people are retiring at the same age, living longer on the pension, and therefore can access less goods and services because the pension's only around $700 a fortnight for couples, which is quite low. The increase in pensions is likely to lead to greater budget deficits as well, which will reduce due to a reduced tax base and increased spending on healthcare. So as we have an ageing population and people are living longer, less people are paying tax and the government spending more on healthcare. So what could happen is the government may have to raise taxes for everyone else, and therefore that will lead to reduced disposable incomes. That can reduce our purchasing power. And secondly, the government may need to borrow money from overseas, and when the government's debt increases by too much, we start getting charged higher interest rates on our debt. So another problem that can occur is the increase in public sector debt or government debt that may occur, and that can lead to higher interest repayments for consumers, for the government initially, and that'll flow on to consumers and our interest rates as well. So it can lead to pensioners having less money, but it can also lead to reduced taxes for workers and increased spending on healthcare. In terms of non-material living standards, in terms of benefits, it's generally argued that if you live longer, you'll experience more positive experiences, which could boost your overall quality of life. So people may be more satisfied with life, knowing they're going to live longer, especially in their early years. Longer life expectancies have also been, synonymous with the eradication of many preventable diseases. So people are having improved health outcomes and therefore a better quality of life. On the flip side, though, the increased ageing population has seen more people living with Alzheimer's. So when you're over 50-65%, 10% of people over 65 will generally get Alzheimer's, and 30% of people over 85. So those with Alzheimer's generally experience a decreased quality of life. And that can also affect the quality of life of their family and friends. So positives, more positive experiences, less diseases because of improved health outcomes, negatives, more Alzheimer's. Another factor that can impact our living standards is crime rates, and it can have both positives and negatives. So higher crime rates, first of all, crime rates are measured by reported yearly and can be converted to a figure per 1,000 people. So the amount of crime that's occurring per 1,000 people. An increase in crime is associated with generally a decrease in both material and non-material living standards. However, there are some positives for GDP per capita, so it's important to recognise that crime rates have positives in the effect that if people get their stuff stolen, they need to buy new stuff, and that can generate increased GDP, can increase incomes and boost material living standards. So increased crime rates can often have lead to an increase in GDP per capita and an increase in production because there's more jobs created from people buying new stuff. It also creates jobs in the security industry and crime prevention industry. That creates employment and incomes, which can boost purchasing power. So if there's more need for security guards have a job, they generate a higher income. So there's the two positives. One, there's more demand for people replacing their things, and secondly, there's more jobs for people working in crime prevention and security industries. In terms of negatives, businesses may need to raise their prices to cover the cost of security, so they may need to install CCTV cameras, may need to hire security guards. This will all push the supply curve to the left as their costs of production have increased and may increase prices, which will reduce people's purchasing power. Then there's the costs of replacing stolen items. So firms that have, or businesses that have their stuff stolen may need to replace them. That will increase their prices and therefore could affect consumers' purchasing power as they compensate for their loss. In terms of non-material living standards, this is all really negative. Those who are victims of crime obviously suffer, so their physical and mental well-being will be diminished, particularly if it's serious crimes like murder victims. They're going to, the family of murder victims are going to have a significant decrease in their non-material living standards. They're more likely to feel anger and grief for the person that they've lost. That's a fairly obvious, I suppose, negative if it's a major crime like a murder. Increased anxiety among society because we're worried about our feeling safe in the community. And it can also lead to the government employing measures that can reduce our freedom and privacy. So the government can enforce stricter laws, which can reduce our non-material living standards as well as we're monitored more. So people that suffer, family members from physical and mental well-being, particularly murders, those that experience anxiety, and the government employing measures that limit our privacy. In terms of often the underlying causes of high crime rates is a low level of economic activity. So there's another link that you can make. Those who are unable to find a job are a lot more likely to engage in criminal activities. Low levels of economic activity can also reduce the amount of tax the government has to actually fight crime and put in place programs that are likely to reduce crime rates. So there's two other sort of links you can make in terms of economic activity. Low economic activity, more people are unemployed, more crime. Government doesn't have as much money to influence policies to reduce crime. Literacy rates. So literacy rates, or adult literacy rates, measures the percentage of the population 15 or over who can read or write. A literate individual is more capable of participating in the workforce. So most jobs require basic reading and writing skills, particularly as we become more technologically advanced. So those that aren't able to have those skills are less able to participate in the workforce effectively. Those who can't read and write are a lot more likely to be unemployed and therefore more likely not to earn an income. This can reduce their purchasing power and reduce both their material and non-material living standards. So material living standards much more likely not to get a job, particularly now because of the increased levels of technology in the workforce. Higher literacy rates also help us to compete internationally or in a globalised world. Countries with low literacy rates often struggle to offer goods and services that other countries want, and therefore they can less effectively participate in global trade. Countries that are more educated are generally more productive, which leads to lower prices. When a country becomes more educated, they can effectively participate in more sophisticated areas of production and earn more revenue. So when we have a more educated society, we're able to generate more revenue because we participate in areas of production that require skills and requires a certain level of intelligence, which generates revenue for our country. This boosts our GDP per capita and boosts our living standards. So literacy rates also really important for global trade, to facilitate global trade. In terms of non-material living standards, being literate often helps people to communicate. People's quality of life can be enhanced because they're able to read interesting books, have thought-provoking conversations from those books. They can debate contentious issues with friends and colleagues. So you can think of yourself, the enjoyment that you get from being intelligent, being able to read and pass on knowledge and participate in active conversation is one benefit or negative of being illiterate. Being literate helps people participate in the production process, which can boost their well-being. It can allow them to be engaged in social interactions and a positive feeling of knowing you're making the world a better place. So that idea that you can use your intelligence to better the world around you. Being literate also helps people to participate effectively in the broader community, so you can know more about politics, you can contribute to decision-making in the economy or the democratic decision-making process in a more informed way. So you know what's going on around you and you can make more informed decisions. Thank you.